The Grand Ascension Arena was silent, a colossal bowl of dark metal and sharper shadows. In the highest tier, she observed, a figure of exquisite and terrible beauty. Her skin was the color of starlight on bone, her eyes pools of absolute darkness. She was the last of her kind, a vampire queen whose species fed not on blood, but on psychic essence, on the refined emotional energy of a sentient being's final moments. For centuries, her kind had used this arena, selecting champions from conquered races to fight in glorious artistic duels. The dying screams of warriors were not screams to her, but symphonies. Today, she would choose a new instrument. The contenders stood in the sand below. A hulking Brutorian, its hide like granite, radiated pure, simple aggression. A sleek Talarian duelist moved with liquid grace, its blade humming. There were others, each a masterpiece of violent potential. And then there was the human. He stood slightly apart, his posture devoid of the ready tension of the others. He wore a simple, worn shipsuit. His hair was untidy. He looked, the queen thought with a flicker of distant annoyance, messy. Her advisor, a slender being with nervous hands, whispered, "My queen, the Brutorian's rage is potent. The Talarian's focus is exquisite. The human, his psychic signature is erratic, a cacophony of unresolved sentiment. It would be an inefficient harvest." The queen's lips curled. Inefficiency was a flaw, but a cacophony. It had been so long since she'd heard anything but perfect, predictable notes. A perverse curiosity stirred within her ancient core. She raised a hand, one long, pale finger extending. It pointed unerringly at the human. A murmur rippled through the arena. The other champions relaxed, expressions shifting to pity or contempt. The human simply blinked, then looked around as if confirming the choice. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible shrug. He was brought forward, given no weapon. The queen's voice, like cold silk, draped over the arena. "You will fight the Talarian. Provide a worthy finale." The Talarian glided forward, its blade now a visible shimmer in the air. It bowed to the queen and faced the human. The human did not adopt a stance. He stood, hands loose at his sides. The gong sounded. The Talarian became a blur of motion, a dancer of death. Its blade sliced the air where the human's neck had been. But the human was not there. He had taken a single stumbling step back, tripping over his own feet and falling inelegantly onto the sand. The blade passed harmlessly overhead. A laugh, low and derisive, echoed from the Brutorian. The Talarian pressed, its attacks a beautiful, relentless pattern. The human rolled. He scrambled. He ducked behind a fragment of a prior combatant's armor, not as a tactical move, but like a frightened animal seeking cover. He was not fighting. He was avoiding. The arena's silence turned to one of baffled disappointment. This was not a symphony. It was DISCORDANCE. The queen watched, her initial curiosity hardening into cold displeasure. This was not art. This was noise. She prepared to signal an end to this farce, to have the human removed and the Brutorian take his place. Then it happened. The Talarian, frustrated, committed to a finishing lunge. It was a perfect, elegant strike, aimed for the heart. The human, halfway to his feet from another stumble, saw it coming. There was no time for grace. He did not parry. He did not dodge. He threw himself forward, not away, inside the Talarian's guard. His hand, empty and unremarkable, shot out. It was not a punch. It was a grab. His fingers closed around the Talarian's slender wrist. The elegant alien halted, shocked by this crude physical contact. It tried to disengage, but the human's grip was like a vice born not of strength, but of sheer, desperate kinetic force. He yanked, pulling the Talarian off balance. The two of them fell into the sand in a tangle of limbs. The arena watched, perplexed. This was not combat as understood by any civilized species. It was brawling. It was undignified. On the ground, the Talarian hissed, its free hand striking at the human's face. The human took the blow, his head snapping to the side. But he did not let go. Instead, he moved again, an awkward rolling motion, using his legs to entangle the Talarians. He was not applying a submission hold. He was just making them both a mess of limbs. The Talarian's beautiful blade was pinned in the sand, useless. The alien's frustration ignited into panic. Its psychic aura, once a single note of focused intent, frayed into sharp spikes of confusion and anger. The human, atop it now, raised a fist. He did not strike with precision. He struck like someone trying to drive a nail with a rock. Once, twice, a third time. The blows were not clean. They were inefficient, brutal, and profoundly ugly. The Talarian's psychic signature, that refined energy the Queen fed upon, did not crescendo into a clean note of acceptance or noble defeat. It shattered. It burst apart in a chaotic spray of surprise, indignity, fear, and raw, unadulterated pain. It was not a melody. It was the sound of a priceless crystal vase being smashed on a stone floor. The psychic shockwave hit the Queen. She stiffened in her throne. Her dark eyes widened. For a millennium, she had consumed only the finest, most refined emotional essences. This was something else. It was crude, unprocessed, a wild storm of base emotion. The surprise was acid-sharp. The indignity was a coarse rasp. The fear was a cold flood. And beneath it all, from the human, there was no triumph, no glory. There was only a frantic, pounding, simple need to not die. It was the most visceral, real psychic imprint she had ever experienced. It was not art. It was life. Raw, desperate, messy life. The arena was utterly, completely frozen. The Brutorian's smirk had vanished, replaced by a look of primal unease. The other champions stood as statues. The advisor had taken a step back, his hands trembling. The silence was no longer one of anticipation, but of profound, universe-shattering shock. The human pushed himself off the motionless Talarian. He stood, breathing heavily, a trickle of blood from his lip. He looked at his own hands, as if surprised by them. Then he looked up, past the sand, past the tears of silent aliens, to the Queen in her high throne. Their eyes met. His gaze held no challenge, no reverence. It held only a weary, unsettled confusion. And from him, the Queen felt the psychic aftermath. It was not the clean emptiness of a spent warrior. It was a turbulent sea. Relief, shame, adrenaline sickness. A bizarre thread of embarrassment for the clumsiness of it all. It was the most complex, undigested emotional profile she had ever sensed. It was utterly intoxicating, but she rose from her throne. The movement, so simple, seemed to crack the frozen moment. Every eye in the arena followed her dot. She descended. Her gown of shadow trailed behind her as she floated down the tiers, not using the stairs, but moving as if gravity were a forgotten suggestion. She landed on the sand without a sound, a few paces from the human. The sand near her feet remained undisturbed, and he watched her, making no move, offering no posture of defense or submission. He just was. The Queen approached. She stopped an arm's length away. The psychic scent of him was overwhelming. It was not the single, purified note she craved. It was the entire, chaotic orchestra of human experience, played all at once, out of tune and at full volume. "What are you?" Her voice was a whisper, but it carried to the furthest tier. The human wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "I was trying not to get cut." "You have no technique." No grace. Your mind is a riot. He nodded slowly. Yeah, that sounds about right. She reached out, not to touch him, but to feel the tumult of his psychic field more closely. It was like standing before a storm. The death you give, it is not a gift. It is a theft. It is messy. I didn't want to kill anyone, he said, and the truth of it radiated from him, a bright, painful core amidst the chaos. I just wanted to live. Love, the concept struck her. For eons, she had curated death. She had shaped final moments into art. But this was not about the end. This was about the desperate, clawing, ugly will to continue. The energy of it was not pure, but it was potent beyond measure. It was life, insisting on itself, in all its inelegant, brutal glory. The arena waited. The advisor feared she would order the human's execution for his transgression. Against aesthetic, the vampire queen looked at her chosen champion. Covered in sand and blood, his essence a turbulent, blinding light in her psychic sight. He had not given her a beautiful death. He had given her something she had forgotten existed. A slow, genuine smile touched her lips. A sight more terrifying than any scowl. The Ascension Games are concluded, she announced, her voice now filling the vast space. This one is mine. She turned and began to glide back towards her spire, not looking back, but knowing he would be brought. The audience remained in stunned silence. The advisor rushed to her side later, in her private chambers. My queen, what is your will? The champion's training will begin at once. We will teach him form, technique, to harness his psychic output into something usable, something clean. No, she said, gazing out at the stars. You will not touch him. You will not train him. You will not refine a single messy part of him. But why? His potential, though crude. For 1,000 years, she interrupted softly, I have dined on the most delicate of dishes. I had forgotten the taste of food. She turned, her dark eyes gleaming. Let the others have their perfect, predictable instruments. I have found a storm, and I will have it in all its glorious, untamed chaos.